Hello YouTube and welcome to my channel. My name is Cleo and welcome to the second part of Darell Brooks' trial. So I've been watching sentencing day 1 and day 2, where we got to witness the victims express their anger, their grief and their loss, also how they're processing through it all. And while they were actually pouring their hearts out, we got the reaction from Darell Brooks that isn't really surprising, but yeah, it was disgusting. He rolled his eyes, he laughed, and was just rude. And it was so hard to watch sentencing day 1 and 2 because of the victim's grief and how he reacted to it. There isn't really a strong word, there isn't really a word that is strong enough to explain what he is, because monster and garbage doesn't really cut it. Even after the sentencing, even after it's done, I'm still asking myself, like, was he really for real? Because my head can't really understand how the hell can you react that way. Like, how can you be so heartless and so freaking childish? Like, it makes me confused, but at the same time, after seeing almost the whole trial, I'm not really surprised to see this from him. Sentencing day 1 was about the victims. It was about them expressing their loss, their anger, their pain and their grief, and explain their process. It was their day to be heard, even from Darell Brooks. There were mothers, there were fathers, there were children expressing their hurt, their grief, their anger, and explaining the process after the traumatic event. Explaining how they as people, persons, are forever changed, and what they now have to go through. And it was really heartbreaking. A few stories was really heartbreaking. The victims of the mothers they lost that day stepped up and expressed their pain and their anger also towards Darell Brooks, explaining how it's not fair that he's breathing and they're not. And I can't really blame them for feeling that way. But even when they expressed their pain, their grief, Darell Brooks sat there, laughed, rolled his eyes, shaked his head, because in his world, Darell Brooks is the victim, not the actual victims. The hardest part was hearing the mothers which children got hurt, and hearing the mother who lost her child, the child that got run over by Darell Brooks' SUV. I had to watch that video twice, and both times I cried. It was heartbreaking. There's nothing more heartbreaking than a mother's grief. It teared me. I'm gonna show you guys a few examples of the victims, and one part is pretty much grief and the other part is grief and anger. So here's a few clips.
My son's baseball group was after the extreme dancers who were within sight. Then the gasps and screams came from everywhere, and the red SUV sped past us. I yelled stop and put my hands out like I had the power to make it happen. I felt like I was punched in the stomach when I realized the SUV came from the direction of my son's group. Panicked and lightheaded, and knowing my daughter was safe, I ran to find my son. Running through the streets, my legs felt like they had a life of their own. I found Jackson first. I saw his little body in his Blazers jersey. His eyes looking up, looking nowhere. I knew he was hurt badly. Seeing Jackson on the ground, I began looking for my son amongst the rest of the bodies. I screamed hysterically, searching frantically. What ifs filled my head. I heard Mom from so many directions, but it wasn't him. Finally, it was. I turned to see him with other Blazers who were in the team truck. He called out to me, "Mama, I'm here. I was on the other side." Yes, I found my son unharmed, but after, the chaos continued. I found my children unharmed. But after, the pain and terror continued. After the parade, we discovered people had died, and that several people in my son's group were hit, including his coach and teammate. We learned that my son's teammate was in critical condition, but I already knew this. I still see his eyes without closing mine. What does it feel like to attend a funeral of a child your age? I hate that my kids know.
I had no idea then the nightmare that was coming my way. Nor did I know that it would be the last time I would hear Jackson's voice and see his smile. I wish I would have known then that the hug he gave me before I went to sit down was the last hug I would ever get from him. I would have held on to him a lot longer. Both boys had traumatic head and brain injuries. They both ended up in the ICU at Children's Hospital, their rooms just a few doors down from one another. The next day, Tucker asked us about Jackson, if he was okay or was he worse than himself. Do you have any idea how gut-wrenching it is to have to explain your 12-year-old son that his little brother isn't going to make it? His injuries are too extensive for his little body to come back from, and that he won't be coming home with us ever again. Leaving him at the hospital was brutal. To see the confusion, frustration, and hurt on his face when he's standing over his little brother in his hospital room, taking in all the machines he was hooked up to. Tucker remembers everything up until the moment he was hit. He had actually turned around and saw the SUV coming towards them. He said Jackson was right next to him. He said he saw a few people get hit, and then he tried to run out of harm's way. He didn't make it. Being the protective big brother, Tucker blamed himself. He felt he should have tried to grab Jackson or done more to protect his little brother. It broke my heart to hear him saying these things. Tucker's physical injuries were also severe. He still struggles with memory issues and brain processing speed. The mental and emotional damage is severe. Survivor's guilt, PTSD, anxiety, he still gets headaches. His little brother was taken from him. He's suddenly an only child now. He misses his little brother and his playmate. Jackson brought out the silly in him, and life will never be the same without him.
Then we have the victims that expressed themselves through anger and really was on Darell Brooks. And nothing they said were wrong. It was very good and very accurate.
On November 21st, you killed my mother. And in this courtroom, I watched you run her down and her broken body slide across the concrete. This woman loved and she was loved. You ran her down like she was nothing. And since that day, you have shown no remorse. You'd offered no explanation for your atrocities. It offends me that you're sitting here breathing while she is not. You are a monster. You deserve contempt and death. Sadly, with no death penalty in this state, I can only hope they lock you away someplace so deep the rats chew on your fingers at night. As for me, this will never be over until the day I'm pissing on your grave. I think it would be fair to say that for your crimes, even God hates you.
That is what the world lost, and you have the audacity to tell this court that your conscience is clear. I'm sorry, Mr. Brooks. There's not a human with a soul on this planet who could snuff that light out, who could steal Lee Owen from this world and have a clear conscience. I didn't get it until my wife sent me a video of you running over children in the parade. That's when I got the punchline. And it hit me like your red SUV, Mr. Brooks. I saw pure, unrepentant evil in your face that day, and it disgusts me that you are allowed to exist. And I know the answer to the question that everyone keeps asking. I know why you did this. You did this simply because you were not in a cage. That is what I find mind-boggling. And how dare anyone say the system failed him? The system failed every one of us whose only mistake was to bring their families in the vicinity of Mr. Brooks. That poor excuse for a man should not have been on the streets. That is the failure, period. But enough about him, because today is not about him. It's about us and what we lost. I lost my mom, Lee Owen, and I wasn't always a good son. I could be selfish sometimes. I could be mean. But no matter how angry or standoffish I got, she would bend over backwards for me, even when I didn't deserve it. And now I can never tell her I'm sorry. I can never tell her I should have been more grateful. I can never tell her how much I need her in my life. Yeah, shake your head. Shake your head. You know, because that is what you took from me. And there's nothing this court can do that would provide justice in my eyes. So all I ask is that you rot, and you rot slow.
Now I'm gonna show you guys a short clip that explains or shows his behavior through the whole sentencing day part, sentencing day 1, how he was and why people got so upset.
Scarred her. Because of your actions, my wife had to hand over my children to our community friends. During the trial, you show little regard and respect to the court. It makes you look disrespectful.
Thank you, sir.
To have, please don't do that. It's so disrespectful. I've watched all day on TV, and I've watched you mock all of the victims all day. You roll your eyes and you make faces. If this was your 8-year-old daughter that someone else hit, you would have been beside yourself if someone made those faces. And you want people to have forgiveness for you and your child? You're insane.
It is like I said from the beginning of the video, like, is he for real? I'm still asking myself that, because it's surreal. Like, I can't understand that there's people that can roll their eyes watching and hearing this and laugh and shake their head. Is he that delusional? Yes, I know he is. I know he is really sick. I know he thinks he is the actual victim here. It's just, there's no words. Really, there's nothing more I can say. I get so shocked every time I witness this. It's heartbreaking. It's insane. It's sick. No, shit. That's all I'm gonna say. My other question is, what did he hope to gain from doing that? I mean, the judge is actually watching him and taking notes. He should know this, but still, I don't understand. I really don't. He's being watched 24/7. What do you expect people to think when they are witnessing your behavior? It's, you know what, that's what I mean. There's no, in the video I just showed, there was a mother that said if it was Darell Brooks' own daughter, he would be beside himself if somebody made faces to them or to her. And considering how he'd been throughout this whole trial, it has just been proven. I don't know how he feels when it comes to his own children. I don't know, maybe there is a part of him that actually loves them. I don't know. But I truly believe that he would not sacrifice his own comfort for his child. I truly believe he wouldn't put, and not often anyway, someone else before him. And that is what I've gotten from this trial, witnessing his behavior, that the only one that is important to save is him. His own comfort is important. And the only reason he ever mentioned his children was to play on the jury's feelings. And it didn't work. Sentencing day 2 was the day where Darell Brooks' mother and grandmother and Darell Brooks was gonna have their words, their speech. I mean, Darell Brooks' mouth hasn't been closed through this whole trial, but fine, okay. So, Darell Brooks' mother wanted to bring awareness to mental illness now that her son have killed and hurt a lot of people. This is her video.
Mental illness affects everyone. It destroys lives, families, and hurts society. For far too long, it's been a dirty little secret in families that no one wants to talk about. Mental illness is the elephant in the room that so many pretend it's not there. People who suffer from it are often shunned by families and friends, rejected by society, and made fun of, the subject of bad jokes, ridiculed, and judged on YouTube, podcasts, Facebook, and other media posts, used in campaign ads, disrespected, stripped of their dignity. No one cares. No one sees their pain or hears their cries and pleas for help. Once viewed as fun, loving, and kind, are now the outcasts of society. We say what's wrong with society? They're idiots, unfit. They need to be disposed of, thrown out with the rest of the trash. They serve no purpose. Mental illness caused them to do the unthinkable. They must be punished. Yes, I agree, there should be some accountability for their actions. But we also must render help. What good is punishment without correction to prevent the act from happening again? In their cases, or many of their cases, treatment, therapy, medication, hospitals, and institutions that specialize in helping those who suffer with mental illness need to be offered. I believe lawmakers and society as a whole need to recognize mental illness. Mental illness cannot be eradicated with prison bars. Mental illness is going to always be there. It's invasive. With treatment and therapy, medication, and hospitals and institutions that specialize in the treatment of mental illness, it can be controlled. Families need to advocate for those who cannot speak for themselves or who struggle to understand what's happening to them. Lawmakers should support by providing resources to individuals so they can get the help they need. I believe that if treatment is offered early when the signs of mental illness first shows, and it's addressed and stayed on top of, instead of let people lagger and fall through the cracks, just maybe there would be less court cases and less people crying because their loved ones was hurt.
I don't even know where to begin. You seem to know a lot about mental illness. And you seem to know a lot about mental illness because you yourself are experiencing it. You say that the people of law should provide help when the first sign of mental illness shows. You say that if society provided help directly when they needed it, that they would be cured. Other families needs to show compassion, and ill people shouldn't be thrown away like trash. So you are very good at pointing out the responsibilities that society have and the court of law. My question here is, considering that your son has been in and out of Yale since 1516, doesn't that raise flags for you as a mother to go seek treatment and help for your son? So like I said in this 12-minute speech, you were very good at pointing out the responsibility that society has and the people of law. May I ask where your responsibility as a mother comes in? He is not the son of society or the people of law. Society will always be there, and the people of law will always be there to do the best they can to make society a safer place. And no, this isn't only for Darell Brooks' mother, this is for the mothers that thinks that they can bring a child to this world and then say that it is society's responsibility to take care of them. There is a lot of people that think that way, and let me tell you, that is not the case. It is your job as a mother to help your son understand society and understand its law so he can function in life. And like I said, it is your duty as a mother to keep an eye on these signs or flags of mental illness and then go and seek treatment which society can provide. And I truly believe that we would have less cases if some parents could step up and be parents. He became an outcast of society when he decided to turn his back on the laws. And if your son could show some compassion to the victims like he showed to your poem, then maybe he will get a better reaction. Or maybe he would get a better reaction from the victims if he actually apologized. There's so much more I could say to her statement. There's so much more I could say. It's just, if you decide to get a child, that is like your decision of your own. Society and court of law is not going to be a part of your decision. It's not going to object. So when you do bring a child up to this world, don't blame society or law, the people of law, that things didn't really work out. And I feel like she came up and said he has a mental illness. So if he had a mental illness or has, shouldn't there be records where you actually go and seek help for it or treatment? I feel like these are files that the people of law could get their hands on, but nothing has been mentioned. And then we have the grandmother. I'm not going to show this video. I just didn't have strength to watch that shit all over again. Excuse me. She literally lectured the victims of mental illness and forgiveness. And she also said that it was bipolar that run the victims over. Bipolar. Still, is there any files in the system that says that you have taken him and seen a doctor? I mean, his mother and grandmother are so well educated in mental illness. Now, no wonder Darell Brooks did just fine. I'm sorry, how can I keep a straight face? Yeah, And then there were Darell Brooks. His final statement. It took 2 hours. 2 hours. I feel so sorry for the jury. Honestly, I feel so sorry. There's no way in hell I'm gonna watch 2 hours of him rabbling, blah blah blah, whatever you want to call it. So here's a short clip. Even if that one wasn't short enough, here it is.
But I do believe one thing though. As long as you have breath in your body, no matter what you're going through, where you may be, what struggles you have, what you can't figure out, you have to find a way to press forward. You have to keep faith, and you have to press forward. I think the Apostle Paul said it best. Apostle Paul said it best when he said, one thing I do, forgetting what's behind me and straining toward the upward call of which Christ has taken a hold of him. Straining forward, which acknowledging that it's difficult. Acknowledging that there'll be opposition, there'll be hurdles to jump, there'll be mountains to climb. It's not gonna be easy. Acknowledging that by saying straining to move forward. That's what I've been learning. Is it frustrating that sometimes people mistake that for not caring? Yeah. Very frustrating. As hard as it is, you cannot turn back the hands of time. You can't. As much as I wish I had the power to do that, I can't. So I have to look at life going forward, not backward. I have to look at reality. I've moved past the actual tragedy of the day of November 21st, 2021, but I have not moved past uplifting this community in prayer, and I will continue to do that until it's my time to pass on. I won't stop uplifting the communities in prayer, the victims, the families. Regardless of how anyone feels, I will continue to pray for them, because that's what I want my heart to reflect. And I don't want it to be misinterpreted what I'm saying by that, by saying I've moved past the actual day. To clarify that so there's no misconception, it's that none of us can go back and change what happened. But that doesn't mean that my life has to continue to be defined by that. I refuse to continue to live at that time, because that time is past. We can always say shoulda, coulda, woulda. Nobody knows what they'll do until they're in that situation. It's easy to say, I would have did this, I could have did this, I should have did this, I would have did that. You never know what you're gonna do until you actually there. Does anyone think I haven't asked myself that? Man, I should have. Why didn't I? What does it matter now? How many times can I pound my fist against something and say, why? How could this? Why, how many times? Before you just like have to move forward. Forgiveness. Matthew 6:14 and 15. Forgiveness. For if you forgive other people when they sin against you, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if you do not forgive others their sins, your Father will not forgive your sins. That's Jesus himself, God himself. I point no fingers towards anyone in judgment to say, how could you say this? And how, like I said before, how people process this tragedy is how they choose to. I could jump up and down and yell and scream about what was said in regards to me. But why? Everyone has to make their own peace with God. And that's what I've done. Regardless to what people think, I've done it. I don't want that to be confused with being at peace. It's a process, but I've made my peace. That is the only reason why I made the comment that I have a clear conscience. It was not pertaining to remorse. It wasn't mockery. It wasn't to thumb my nose at anyone. That wasn't what that comment was about. I've chosen to do that because it was needed. It's easy to lose your way in the world because the world is, as we all know, it's a big place. All types of things are out there. All types of it's easy to get caught up in the world. I can't and I refuse to live the rest of my life trying to please other people. I still have a long way to go to get to where I need to be. But my life now is about pleasing God. It's about what He wants, not what I want. It's about what He wants, not what everybody else wants. It was the acknowledgement that God is in control of everything. Everything. The good, the bad, and the ugly. He is in control. That's what that was pointed towards. That and that alone. For those of us who do believe, we always been taught that God, his ways, not ours.
If you are crazy enough and want to see his whole statement, then go to Law and Crime Network or Law and Crime Network and see the whole thing there. He even blames God. Look, I'm a woman of faith, and it is to my understanding that we have choices here on earth that we can make here on earth, and we have choices of two. And it is God that decides the outcome of our choices. And he already knows what choices we will make. So to kinda imply, or maybe I got it wrong, maybe I didn't understand him, but this is what I think I understand it, to say that it was God that decided this for him is a lie. God gives signs too, There was many chances and there were many signs for you to stop. You could have chosen to stop, but you did not, and that is on you. And after the decision you made, God decided to put you away forever. You were already defined as a criminal when you went in and out of jail since the age of 15 and 16. And this will follow you until your last day here on earth. He does not deserve forgiveness because he haven't apologized since this started. Even if you feel like you're a victim or didn't do this purposely, your SUV that you drove hurt a lot of people and killed people. Either way, they deserve an apology which you never gave. And through their hurt and through their pain and expression, he decided to mock them. You decided to mock them. And for that, you do not deserve forgiveness. This man does not deserve forgiveness. There were actually people that forgave him, but not for him, it was more for them. And when people forgive something like this, it's because they can carry on in life without having that ball of anger suffocating them. Because that could cause mental illness, mental exhaustion, it's torture. So if it is easier to forgive, to release that, then they should. And then it was Jennfier Darell's last words and the sentencing. And how do you think it went? Do you think he was quiet and civil? No. He disturbed her so much she had to throw him to the other room twice. And even if he was in the other room, because there's camera in there and there's audio, she had to turn off the audio, and yet still he tried to disturb her by waving his hand or having a paper with something written on it. It was ridiculous. She also said, "Please turn off my monitor." It was that bad. She spoke about the whole trial. She spoke about the incident in the parade, and she spoke about the victims, and then she spoke about Darell Brooks' behavior throughout this whole trial. According to professionals in the mental illness department, or whatever you can call it, or state, they stated that he only was antisocial. Jennfier Darell also stated that the day of the attack, because it is in fact an attack, he had many opportunities to stop because there were signs, there were barricades, there were actually people that signed him to slow down and stop. And he decided not to. He even continued driving after the first person he hit he continued driving. There were even witnesses that witnessed that his brakes worked because he had to slow down when he was turning into the parade. He also wasn't intoxicated, so he wasn't hallucinating. His mind was clear. And then she also took up Darell Brooks' mockery to the witnesses, and she said he has absolutely no remorse. One thing I praise her to bring up is the fact that he shows to be dumb, but he actually isn't that dumb. Now, he's dumb, but they're not the right dumb. I don't know how to explain this. He's not that dumb. He's dumb, but he's not that dumb. The fact that he prepared himself for this trial like he did, read the little law he read, and was able to protest the other lawyers, and was very well read into his own rights, doesn't make him dumb. He doesn't seem that confused. It is a little bit sad because maybe he didn't have potential to come anywhere in law, but if he had just chosen the right path from the beginning, he would actually come somewhere in life. This didn't have to be the outcome. Jennfier Darell did become emotional, especially when she spoke to the kid Tucker. Tucker is the brother of, I think, Jackson, the kid that died thanks to Darell Brooks. And she clearly stated, Tucker, it's not your fault, it's Darell Brooks' fault. If you guys want to see her whole statement, because it's also pretty long, just go to Law and Crime Network and see the whole thing there. And now to the sentencing, and I'm going to actually read it. Darell Brooks received 6 consecutive life sentences plus more than 700 additional years in prison. She sentenced Brooks for 17 and a half years for each of the 61 counts of first-degree recklessly endangering safety with the use of a dangerous weapon. So Darell Brooks got shot down, and he's gonna live in prison for the rest of his life. Jennfier Darell did an excellent job throughout the whole trial. Her behavior against Darell Brooks was perfect. She is very intelligent, and her patience is one of a kind. And it is thanks to her patience and the fact that she could remain calm that things went as good as it went. There's no words. She is a queen, indeed she is. Yeah, when Jennfier Darell did have her last words, of course, Darell Brooks started to argue and started to interfere a lot. And he also stated that he's still confused as to what he's getting charged with, or for, excuse me. He also stated that the court had already decided from the very beginning what would happen or his outcome. So Darell Brooks will always think that he will always feel like a victim and the outcast of society, which society threw away and neglected. For the mothers and the children, yeah, well, for everyone. I really truly hope it gets easier in life someday. And I hope that you as a family can celebrate whatever you want to celebrate without feeling scared or something triggering. I hope you guys as a community will keep on supporting each other and be there for each other, because it is very beautiful. Like I said, I hope you guys still get support. Thank you, Jennfier Darell, for bringing justice to these people, and thank you so much for being the light and an inspiration. You deserve vacation. Yeah, guys, and that will be it for me. Darell Brooks' case is done. He is shut down. Well, I don't think this will be the end of him, but it is for me. So if you did enjoy this video, please leave a like and subscribe today for more. Take care. Bye bye.